Hi guys, this is Miss Casey from Fibo Kids Art Academy, and today I'm going to be going over our very first class for the month of August of our grades 3 through 5 reading and art classes. So this class this week, we are going to be learning and discussing the book Rules. Now this book is by Cynthia Lord. And we're going to be going over all of the major points, the story structure, using our chart, and we're also going to be creating a beautiful project inspired by the book. So hope you guys are excited. So on my table here I have the supplies that we're going to be using as well as a sample that we are going to be making today. Now you guys get to get creative and make something that's a little bit more personal to you, but I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about what I have here. So for our project today, we are going to be using oil pastels, color pencils, and some watercolor as well. Okay, now in this sample, I have a picture of a girl and a picture of a boy. Now, if you can tell, I have some names in the Polaroids, and these names are the characters' names. And so you can draw the characters as well, or you can draw and make it a little bit more personal. You can draw yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how this sample is going to relate to the book. Okay, so go ahead and gather out your supplies, and then once you're ready, let's get started into our practice draw. You're going to need a practice paper. It can be sketchbook paper, it can be copy paper, computer paper, whatever you have on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and move my supplies out of the way for now until we are ready to start our coloring. And I'm going to bring my practice paper out. Again, it can be sketchbook paper, computer paper, whatever paper you have. So we're going to get started with our practice draw first, and then we'll take a break before our final draw, and we'll talk a little bit more about the book that we are reading today. Okay? So what I want you to do is you're going to take a pencil. Make sure you're using a pencil for your drawing, but I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines better. So to start this practice draw, we are going to be drawing the squares for the pictures as you saw in my sample. Now the pictures, inside the pictures you can draw yourself and a friend, or you can draw one of the characters and then a second character from the book. But first we're going to draw some squares. So we're going to start on the top right corner, and you're going to draw a long line from the left to the right. It takes up about the right half of your paper. Then we're going to draw a line down the left side and a line down the right side, and we're going to make these a little bit long, maybe not so much a square. And then once you have the lines on the side, you're going to finish up with a line for the bottom. And now that we have the outside of our picture, next we're going to draw an inside shape, a square. This time it is going to be a square, and we want the bottom of the picture to be much thicker than the top. So we're going to start up close to the top, draw a line that comes across, make sure it doesn't touch the sides of your picture. Then we're going to draw the sides, again following along the outside shape but not touching it. And then we're going to stop about half toward the bottom, but not going all the way, and again making that a nice thick area at the bottom. So I'm going to make this side a little bit longer so it matches up. And then to finish off, you're going to draw a line that comes across to complete. So it looks like a Polaroid. If you don't know what a Polaroid is, it is basically an instant picture, kind of like what your phone makes. But these were around a long time ago, and what they did is they printed out the picture for you right in that moment. So it's a little different than your phone. Your phone can't print pictures right in the second that you take it. You have to purchase a new device and apply it and attach it to your phone, and there's a lot of different things that you have to purchase. But for a Polaroid, you just took the picture and the picture came out. It's pretty fun. If you have a Polaroid, you know what I'm talking about. So we have a Polaroid right here on the right side. Now we're going to draw a second one on the left side. Now you can have a little fun with it, and instead of having your Polaroid straight up and down, Don't have it tilted all the way to the side horizontally, but you can kind of tilt it a little so it's a little at a diagonal. If you're going to do that, you want to draw a diagonal line. Again, you want it to be not too big, about the same size as this one. And if you don't want to do it diagonally, you're just going to do it straight up and down at the bottom on the left. Then we're going to draw our lines for the sides. And again, making it a little bit longer on the sides, like a rectangle. And then draw the bottom, connect it at the bottom. And then you're going to go inside and draw a square. It's going to be closer to the edges on the top and the sides. And then at the bottom, it's going to be a little bit thicker. Once you have the bottom, you're going to complete it, drawing a line at the bottom. So now we have two Polaroids. One's a little bit tilted, one's straight up and down at the top, but we have two. Okay, so now that we have our Polaroids, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing a portrait of a person inside each picture. So again, these people can represent you or characters from the books. Okay, so we'll start with our character up here in the top, the person up here at the top. We're going to make a very simple drawing of a person. So we're going to start with our basic shapes. So right inside toward the top of the smaller square, you're going to draw an oval for the head of that portrait, that person. Once you have an oval, you're going to draw two lines underneath for the neck. And then you're going to draw two curved lines that come down to the bottom of the Polaroid for the shoulders. Now, if you'd like, you can make the oval just a little bit bigger and have the neck a little bit lower and the shoulders lower so you see more of the face. Once we have those basic shapes, you're going to do the basic structure of the face. And we're not going to add any details like hair or clothing just yet. I'm going to show you how to structure the face in a very basic way, so no details. So when we draw the face, we want to start with the eyes, and they're going to be in the middle of the head. So we're going to find the middle of our oval and draw two rainbow lines. Then in between the eyes and halfway between the eyes and the bottom of the head, we're going to draw the nose, and the nose is going to be a small letter U. Then in the middle between the nose and the bottom of the head, we're going to draw a wider letter U for the mouth. So that's going to be the eyes, nose, and mouth. And lastly, for the ears, to have correct proportion, we want to start the ears at the top of the eyes and end it at the bottom where the nose is. So we're going to start and draw a letter C down on one side and a backward C on the other side. And again, it matches the top of the eye and the bottom of the nose. So now we have the basic structure for a person's portrait. We're going to do the same thing on our Polaroid at the bottom. Now again, yours might be a little tilted or it might be straight up and down, so you can turn it so that way it's a little bit straighter for you. Then you're going to start with an oval again for the head. This time I made my oval just a little bit bigger. I can show you how that might look a little different. Then you're going to draw two lines for the neck and two curved lines for the shoulders out to the bottom. So you can see the shoulders and neck you see less of, and you see more of the head. So if you'd prefer to make your head a little bit bigger, don't change it now. This is just our practice draw, but when you do the final draw, you can make that head just a little bit bigger. Now that we have the basic shapes for the person's portrait, we're going to again practice how we draw the basic structure of a face. So we're going to find the middle of the head, draw two rainbows for the tops of the eyes. In the middle, between the eyes and the bottom of the head, you're going to draw a curved line for the nose. And then underneath that, a wide letter U for the mouth. Then on the sides, we're going to draw the ears. Remember, the ears start at the top of the eye and end at the nose. So for the left side, you want to draw a letter C, and the right side, you're going to draw a backwards C. So now we have the basic structure of the portrait. Again, we won't add details yet. We're going to wait for our final draw. So this is all we're going to practice in our practice draw. In those empty spaces, we are going to be drawing an object. Now I'll tell you a little bit more about what objects you can draw and why we are drawing them. But now that we're done with our practice draw and we have laid out how we're going to make our picture, you can go ahead and put your pencil down, set your practice draw to the side, and then we're going to go over our story chart and talk a little bit more about our book that we are inspired by today. Okay, so the book today is a really fun one, and I've tried not to say the title yet because I want to go over our structure and not give you guys any of the answers away. Even though you can't tell me the answers here, I still want you guys to kind of think about it. So our book today is a fun one, and it's really interesting and informational. So we'll start with our very first section at the top of our chart, title and author. So hopefully we know the title, and hopefully you may know the author. If you have the book copy right in front of you, then that's going to, of course, help you as well. So we have the title, which is Rules. Okay, Rules. And then the author, I already mentioned, is Cynthia Lord. Alrighty, so that's our title and author. Now for our characters, we have quite a few, and there's some main characters and there's some antagonists, and we also have some supporting characters that are kind of just around and in the book, but they're not main characters. No, they're not exactly what the book is about. So the book actually focuses on two main characters. So the first main character is Catherine, and she's a 12-year-old girl, and she is the sister of David, who is an 8-year-old boy. So Catherine and David are brother and sister. So those are the main characters that the book focuses on. We know who these characters are, and we know what the characters do and kind of how the book follows them, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in our plot. Okay, so for some more characters here, we have Catherine and David. Then we're also introduced to Jason, who is a friend of Catherine's. And then we also are introduced to Christy, their neighbor, and Catherine's friend. And then Ryan, who is kind of like the antagonist. Not very nice. Okay, so we have those as pretty much the main important characters, but then we also have Catherine and David's parents, we have other neighbors, we have family, we have David's therapist, and so there's other characters that we meet along the way, but they're not super important to the plot or the main structure of our story. So those are our characters. Now for our setting, it's kind of a larger setting than what we're used to. It's not a very specific place, but for the setting, we have Catherine and David's house. We also have the neighborhood that they kind of go around into different areas, different places. And then, of course, we have the clinic that David goes to for occupational therapy. Okay. So that is our setting. And now for the plot, just to give you guys a little bit more insight to exactly what the book is about. If you haven't read it, if you have read it, then you know. And if you've maybe read some of it, then hopefully you know just a little bit and I don't give you too much information so that way you can finish reading it. All right, so for our plot in this book, again, we have Catherine and her brother David. And David is a boy who has autism. And so Catherine, we learn early on, Catherine is someone who has to take care of her brother, especially during this summer. Her friend ends up going to live with her dad over the summer. So Catherine basically has to take care and spend time with her brother more so than she does. And Catherine sometimes does not like the looks or stares or judgment that people give her brother David. So she ends up creating rules for him to follow to help behave in a more normal way in public. Okay? And so I say rules because toward the end we kind of have a little bit of a realization about these rules. And then throughout, she's creating these rules to help David behave in a more normal way. But she starts to kind of realize, what is normal? She ends up meeting a friend, Jason, at David's occupational therapy clinic. And Jason also is a boy with special needs. He's in a wheelchair and has trouble communicating, so he has communication cards. And so she becomes friends with him, and she starts to learn all these different ways and different needs that people who may not be normal to her have. And she starts to feel that, again, maybe normal isn't something that has a specific meaning or definition. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of our summary and plot here. I don't want to give too much information, and then right now we'll go ahead and stop there, and then after our final draw we'll hop over to our chart again, and we'll talk a little bit more about our climax and solution and exactly what this book is about and how it can be applied to our lives. Alrighty, so I'll go ahead and scoot this over to the side. Again, the book is Rules. Our characters are Catherine, David, Jason. We have Christy, who's a neighbor, and Ryan, who's an antagonist. And yeah, so now that we know those characters, I'm going to bring back our practice draw just real quickly. And so in our picture today, when we get to our final draw, we're going to be drawing either characters from the book, or you can choose to draw yourself, and maybe you know someone, either a relative or a friend, or someone close to you. Maybe you know someone with special needs like autism, or like someone who is in a wheelchair like Jason, or someone who has trouble communicating and needs to use communication cards. Maybe it's someone who has other different special needs, or maybe just someone who is very special to you. It doesn't even have to be that they have any specific needs or disabilities. Maybe they're just a very special friend to you. You love them dearly. Maybe it's not your friend. Maybe it's a sibling, someone that you've taken care of, not because they're sick or have any special needs, but just because you were the older sibling. Whatever the case is, if you have someone that you hold very dearly and close to you, it's a best friend, it's your sibling, you can go ahead and draw yourself and that person in the other photo, or again, you can just keep it related to the book and draw Catherine and her brother, or maybe you want to draw Catherine and Jason, or another character in the book. Okay, so that's how we are going to change up these characters and make them look like specific people. So when we get into our final draw, we don't necessarily know exactly what Catherine and Jason or David look like, but we know David is 8 years old and Catherine is 12 years old, so Catherine's a little bit older, David's a little bit younger, and so you can kind of create these characters however you imagine or picture them to look like. But again, if you're drawing yourself and a friend or a sibling, a relative, then you can add characteristics that make these people look exactly like you and your friend. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab out our final paper. Now, we're going to be using a little bit of watercolor today for our background. So if you have a thick paper, make sure you grab it out because we are using watercolor paper. You want to make sure you have a thick paper to hold all of that water. Now, when you have your final paper out, make sure it goes up and down, vertical. And again, we are going to be working on our drawing, so you want to make sure that you are using your pencil. Okay, so start with your pencil. I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines better. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, again, very similar to how we did our practice draw. We're going to start with the squares, the basic shapes of our pictures. So I'm going to start on the right top side, and I'm going to start with the top of the photo line. It takes up about the right half of that paper. Then you're going to draw the sides, long straight lines down the sides. You want these sides to be a little bit longer than the top. It's going to look kind of like a rectangle. Then you're going to draw the bottom of the photo. And now for the inside, we want to make this as square as you can with the bottom a little bit thicker than the top. So we're going to start a little bit closer to the top of our shape. Bring the sides down, again, closer to those lines. And then once you have that shape, you're going to finish it up at the bottom. Make sure it's a square. And then for the bottom picture, you can change it up, tilt it a little bit. Polaroids are square and they're, they can maybe move and get shifted over. You don't want it completely over to the side, but you can make it up and down, or you can make it a little bit at an angle. So I'm going to make mine actually up and down this time. In my practice draw, I made it at an angle. So if you'd like to do yours at an angle, you're just going to be drawing the same thing tilted. Okay, so for the top of our picture, we're going to draw a line that comes across, 2 lines down the sides. Again, make sure that these are nice and long. And then a line for the bottom of the photo. And then a square inside. Make sure that the square is close up to the top and then nice and thick at the bottom. Okay, so we have our 2 Polaroids. Now that we have that, we're going to draw the basic shapes for the portrait of the people that are in the photos. So I'm going to draw a nice big oval for the head on this portrait. Draw 2 lines for the neck and 2 curved lines out for the shoulders. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Draw a nice oval for the head, 2 lines for the neck, and 2 lines out for the shoulders. Okay, now that I have the portrait drawn, I'm going to draw the basic structure for the face detail. So I'm going to find the middle of the head, draw 2 rainbows for the top of the eyes, a letter U for the nose, a wider letter U for the mouth, and then 2 letter C's for the ears. Make sure that they line up with the top of the eyes and the bottom of the nose. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Rainbows for the tops of the eyes and the middle of the head, a letter U for the nose, a wider letter U for the mouth, and then a letter C for the left ear, backwards C for the right ear. So now that I have the basic structure of a portrait, now's where you can add in your details. How do you want the hair to look? Is it a boy or a girl? Is it, do they have glasses? Do they have any other features on their face that would make them look like the person you're trying to draw? So for Catherine, I'm going to try and make her look a little bit older. So I'm going to have some curved lines for her bangs. Come up and then back down to the top of her ears. Okay. Then I'm going to draw some hair, nice and sleek and controlled since she's a little bit older. So I just drew some nice straight hair for her. Now for her eyes, I'm just going to draw a letter U underneath each eye and then add a rainbow line above her eyes for the eyebrows. Then I'm going to draw a letter U for her collar. And then if you'd like to add a design for the shirt, you can. You don't see much of the shirt, so try not to add too much design or detail and make sure that it is in the correct perspective. So we have the shirt cropped. So whatever design you have here, you probably would only see the top of that design. So now I'm going to get to David. And for David, I'm going to start with his hair, and I'm going to draw some shaggy hair here. Okay, so when you draw the hair, for both boy and girl, you don't necessarily need the curved line for the top of the head. So you guys are using a pencil, but I'm using a Sharpie. So I'm going to show you what you would erase, and you're going to take your eraser and erase it. So right here inside the bangs at the top of the head from that oval, you're going to take your eraser and erase that whole top oval So anything inside the hair. Same thing goes for the hair on the little boy or on David or whoever you draw. If you want to erase anything that goes inside of the hair. Now, I only have a little piece on the forehead. So since there's no hair on the right side of the forehead, the hair is going to start at the top of the head. So I don't need to erase that line. I'm only erasing inside the hair. Now I'm going to finish up the features on David's face. So I'm going to draw 2 circles for the eyes underneath his eyelids, and then add a couple more curved lines above for the eyebrows. And then I'm going to draw a curved line for the collar on his shirt. So I want him to look a little bit younger than her. Okay. Now that I have the people drawn on my Polaroid, if you need a little bit more time to add those characteristics and those details, then you can. Go ahead and pause and take as much time as you need. But if you are ready and you have the details on the people that you are drawing today, then you can go ahead and continue with me. Next, we are going to complete our drawing. So, now that we have the people that we want to draw, we are going to be highlighting that relationship. So we know that Catherine and David are brothers, okay? Or sorry, siblings, brother and sister. So Catherine and David are siblings, and Catherine feels, sometimes a little bit overwhelmed because she has to take care of her brother, and her brother is not always well behaved all the time, and he always gets strange stares anytime he doesn't act normal in public. So Catherine gives him some rules to follow and behave normal while they're out and doing things. And so these rules kind of become part of their relationship. Catherine is helping him to behave properly and taking care of him. And this not only affects David, but it also affects Catherine herself. And so Catherine ends up having rules for herself too. And so this becomes something that is special to their relationship, even if Catherine is doing it at first for, maybe not the right reasons. She starts to realize that, again, there is no exact definition for normal. What is normal? And so rather than having rules for him to behave properly, they end up having a nice talk about exactly what that means. Okay, so backtracking a little bit, one of the rules that Catherine comes up for David is no toys in the fish tank. And that was one of my favorite rules because it's so cute and so funny. And so what we're going to be doing today is, I'm going to show you my sample here. We are going to be drawing in some objects in those empty spaces on the left and right of our paper, and whether you have characters from the book or maybe you drew yourself and a friend, you are going to draw objects that relate to the type of relationship that you have with that person. So something that is special to your relationship, okay? And we're gonna act as if maybe that object or that thing that is special to your relationship, we're gonna act as if it got maybe tossed into the fish tank, like David likes to do and Catherine tells him not to do. So it's, relating back to the book, but it is also a little personal touch for ourselves and a special friend to us. Okay, so I'm going to be drawing Catherine and David, and I'm also going to add some fish in the fish tank here. But you can do whatever object. So say I was drawing Catherine and Jason. Catherine, at Jason's birthday party, actually gets him a guitar. Catherine also, draws communication cards for him and helps him to communicate a little bit more for herself, so that way she can understand a little bit more about what he is expressing. And Catherine loves to draw. So maybe you want to draw a guitar that Catherine gives him, and that is the object that's in the fish tank. Maybe it's one of the communication cards that Catherine draws for David, or one of the symbols that she adds on the communication cards. So have fun thinking about those objects that might relate back to the relationship that you drew out. Again, if they're the characters, think about the book. If it's you and a special friend, think about something that means a lot to both of you and that means a lot to your relationship. So if it were me and my sister, we are actually twins. And so something that would be relating to both of us is we would always have the same things growing up. We would have the same toys, the same clothes, the same shoes. So something that I would probably draw is one of our favorite toys that we had together. And it was a little stuffed animal. And so I could draw maybe mine up here and hers down here. And that would be something that's special to our relationship. Okay, so think about something of the people that you drew and something that relates to that relationship, and then you are going to go ahead and draw that in those empty sections here now. Okay, so do your best. I'm only going to draw what I have here, and that relates to Catherine and David's relationship. So do your best, the best that you can, to draw what you would like to draw. And you're going to put it in these sections here. So make sure that there's enough space for you. Make sure that what you draw is not too big and it's also not too small. You don't want it to be a really, really small object in this big space. You want to make sure it's nice and big to fill up that whole space. So I'm going to draw my fish on the bottom right first. So if you're drawing Catherine and David and you would like to draw a fish like me, go ahead and follow along. But if you're doing your own drawing, then again, do your best, and then you can follow along with me once you're done and we're ready to continue. So for the fish, I'm going to start with a curved line for the top of the body, like a rainbow. And then I'm going to draw a curved line for the bottom of the body, like a letter U. Now I don't want to close this up just yet because I need to draw the tail next. So now I'm going to curve this down and then back up off the paper. So I have the tail fin, but that's going to be cropped off. I'm going to do the same thing under here. Curve it down and then up and off the paper. So now that I have the body of the fish, I'm going to add in the details. So I'm going to draw a curved line for the mouth, and then a circle for the eye, and a smaller circle inside. Then I'm going to draw a little detail on the inside of the head. And then I'm going to draw the fin. So I'm going to start on the top of the body first for the top fin, and I'm going to draw a curved line that comes up, and then wave it down for the back of that fin. And then for the bottom fin, I'm going to draw a curved line that comes down, draw a little wavy line for the bottom, and then another curved line down. Now, any line that comes inside of that fin, this is the front fin, so you want to make sure that you erase that. But then for the back fin that's on the other side, we're only going to see the bottom. So we're going to draw a line that comes down, draw a wavy line until you connect over to the other fin. So that's going to be our first fish here. Now we're going to come over to this side, and whatever object you draw down here, you can draw that same object over here up at the top. So I'm just going to draw that same object, but flip it around. So now I'm going to draw a rainbow line at the top. And then I'm going to connect it on the right side this time and draw a curved line at the bottom. Again, I'm not going to be connecting them in the back. Instead, I'm going to finish off the tail. So I'm going to draw a curved line and bring it up to the edge, end of the paper, curved line, and bring it down to the end of the paper. Now I'm going to draw the details. I'm going to draw a curved line for the mouth, a circle, and a smaller circle for the eye, a curved detail for the inside of the body. Then I'm going to draw the top fin, so I'm going to draw a curved line that comes back, and then wave it down. And then for the front fin, I'm going to bring it back, as if maybe it's swimming. So I'm going to draw a curved line from the bottom, wave it over, Then I'm going to draw a curved line coming in underneath the belly. Now for that, I'm going to keep all of my lines, but the line that connects from the body to the fin, I want to erase. So you can take your eraser and erase that if you're drawing what I'm drawing. And then behind that, we're going to draw the back fin that we don't see the top of, we just see the bottom. So I'm going to go from the bottom of the body, draw a couple of wavy lines, and connect that back up to the back front fin. Okay, and that's going to be my fish on the left. Now lastly, I'm going to add some stems for the plants that are inside the fish tank. Okay, so if you're done with your objects, next you can go and follow along with me with drawing those details for the bottom that are in the fish tank. If you are still drawing, then go ahead and continue. You can pause if you need that extra time, and then continue when you're ready. So for those lines, for the stems or plants that are in the fish tank, I'm just going to draw some curved lines that go behind the photo. And it doesn't have to be exactly placed like mine. I'm doing 3 at the bottom and 2 on the right. But if you want to add a couple more, maybe you want to add some rocks at the bottom, make it look a little bit more like a fish tank. However you'd like to do that, add those details. You may. Just what I recommend is not to add too much to the background. We have a lot going on in our foreground, so we want to make sure that those objects still stand out. So don't do too much to the background. So now I'm going to draw a couple more on the right side here. Okay, we're not going to add leaves yet, we're just making the stems. So once you have that drawn, go ahead and take your Sharpie and you can outline over all of those pencil lines. Okay, so I've already outlined since I drew in my Sharpie. So go ahead and take your time to outline those lines. If you need extra time, pause this video, but if you are ready to move on. Alrighty everyone, so if you're ready for the coloring steps, you should have your oil pastels out first. That is what we're going to be working with to color in those smaller areas. So we're going to start on our objects here using our oil pastels. Okay, so for those objects, everyone drew something different, so use whatever colors you want to color in those objects. Mine are fish, so I'm going to use some colors that represent fish colors. I think I'm going to make them more of like an orangey goldfish kind of color. And if you'd like for those objects, you can add shading, highlights. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that for my fish. But if you don't want to worry about that for your object, you don't have to. If you would like to try, you may. It's up to you. But for the fish, I'm going to start with my orange. I'm going to color in my fish. When you're using oil pastels, you want to make sure that you are pressing hard using short strokes and you're filling in all those white spots. So I'm just coloring in basically my whole fish in this orange color. Now don't forget there were lines that we erased, so make sure that those were erased before you outlined. I'm going to peel a little bit back from the paper here because I'm running out of space on the tip of my oil pastel. So again, I'm just filling in my whole fish with that one color. Then I will add in some shading and some extra details and mix in my oil pastels. All right, now I'm at the end. I am going to go up to the second object and do the same thing. So I'm going to actually flip my paper around. If you need to do this too, you may. So that way I can have a better reach to my other object. I'm just going to do the same thing. Now if you want your other object to be a different color, you can choose any color that you want and change that up. But I'm going to keep my fish the same color since they are the same object. Now when you're using oil pastels, using such a small material and pressing hard, going back and forth, it may start to make your hand hurt. So if you need to take a little break, go right ahead, pause the video and take as long as you need, stretch out your hands, and then you can come back and continue where you left off. With our oil pastels, we're just going to be coloring in our objects and then adding in some detail to the plants in the background. And then that's all we'll do with our oil pastels. So we're almost done. Alright, so now that I'm done coloring in all of my objects with that one color, I'm going to take my paper and tap off the extra crumbs. And now I'm going to take my white and I'm going to add in some lighter areas. So I want to lighten up the tip of the head. Where the mouth is, make that area a little bit lighter. I want to bring that back to the very, very front. Of the fish's head. Now that I've made that lighter, I'm going to do the same thing to the very tips of the tail fin and the rest of the fins. So I'm going to add just a little bit of a lighter area down here at the bottom, over here on the end, and over here at the end of the tail. Okay, I'm also going to add a little detail along the top of the body and then along the middle of the body. Just going to fill in like a big space here. Okay. And then let me do that again for this fish here. Get the ends, the tail, and the fin. A little bit to the top. And a section back here. Okay, now that I have those lighter areas, next I'm going to take a red orange and I'm going to add in some darker areas. So I'm going to kind of go right along top here. And along the back, I'm going to add some darker red orange. I'm going to add some lines across the back. Same thing for the fin, add some lines. Add in some detail. Right along the top and then along the back. Add some lines. Add some detail. Right. I'm going to actually go back in with some white, see if I can make it just a little bit lighter at the ends. Add in some extra highlights. All right, I'm just gonna Alrighty, so there is my fish. And again, you did whatever object you colored in. You can go ahead and finish that up however you'd like to. Alrighty. And if you need a little bit more time with that, then you can definitely pause the video and take as much time as you need. To finish up our oil pastels though, I'm just going to add in some leaves right along the stems. So first, I'm going to take my light green And I'm just going to add these back and forth lines in opposite directions right along the stem. And I'm going to make them kind of long. Right along the stem. I'm going to do that for every stem. I don't want to get inside of the Polaroid. I'm going to stay behind. Alright, once you finish up coloring in the stems, leaves on the stems, then what we're going to do is we're going to add some shading. So now we're going to take a darker green, we're going to just add a few lines inside. You don't want to fill it in as much as you did with the light green. We're just adding a couple of lines right down in the center. Okay, now that we've added that shading, now all we need to do is we are done with our oil pastels. You can shake that off. And now what's important is since we used oil pastels, they tend to get very messy. So you want to make sure you have a wipe or a damp paper towel, and you're going to wipe off your fingers so that those can get nice and clean. And then you're also going to wipe off your table. So make sure that all of those crumbs are off your paper. And then wipe your table. Whoop. Okay, so now that my table's all wiped off, I'm going to set my paper back down. Make sure my fingers are nice and clean. Put my oil pastels away, and now I'm going to take my color pencils. Okay, so for our color pencils, we are going to be coloring in our people. Now, Polaroids are usually white on the outside. They have a white border, so we're not going to do anything for the border. We're just going to go ahead and color in the inside. All right, so we're going to start first by coloring in the skin color. So you can take any skin color you want. I'm going to take a peach and fill that skin in. Now when you're using a color pencil, you want to make sure you're using the side of the pencil, pressing lightly, and using short strokes to fill everything in. By using short strokes and coloring in close together with those strokes, that's going to help you fill in all of those white spots. So you want to get the face, the ears, and the neck. Okay, now if the other person is maybe a different skin color, same skin color, you can go ahead and determine that and then take that color and fill in the other skin. So again, press lightly, use the side of your pencil. And I'm just coloring over my eyes because the eye color is going to be darker and I can just fill that in right over the skin. Okay, I'm going to make the skin color over here just a little bit darker. So I'm going to add a little bit of this color on there. Add a little more layers. Add a little bit darker, there we go. Okay, so now that I have the skin color, I'm next going to color in the hair. And I'm going to color, since they're siblings, I'm going to color them with the same hair color. But depending on who you're coloring in, who you're drawing, then you can choose whatever skin and hair color works best for them. Okay, so now that my hair is colored in, next you can work on the shirt. I'm going to do a blue for David here. And then I'm going to do a pink for Catherine. Now for your people, whether they're you and a friend or characters, you can choose whatever colors you want. Maybe choose a favorite color of that person that you're drawing, or your favorite color for your shirt. And then next we're going to color in the background. Now I recommend having the same color background for both of your pictures, so that way it looks like it's the same picture. But you can do whatever you'd like. You can choose their favorite colors for the background. I'm doing a nice gold color for the background here. Again, I'm using the side of my colored pencil, short strokes, pressing lightly, filling in all those white spots. Now if you need to, if maybe that color that you chose is not dark enough, or maybe you need to fill in a little bit more white spots, you can add another layer in a different direction. That can help smooth out those strokes for you. And then again, I recommend you do the same color for both of the backgrounds, but you can change it up if you'd like. Be careful not to smudge the oil pastel around in the background. Try and lift your hand so that way just your pencil is touching the paper, and that could help from smudging. Alright, and once you're done coloring in the background and you're done coloring in the people, again we're keeping the border of the Polaroid white, so all that's left is to do the background. And so we're going to be doing our background with watercolors, so you can get that out. If you don't have watercolors, then you can just continue on with one of the materials that you were using first, or you can do chalk pastels or a different medium that's going to be a little bit easier. Or if you want to, you can also leave it white. That's up to you. So I'm going to be using blue since this is a fish tank. You should be using blue as well. And we're going to do a wet into wet technique. So we're going to add some water into small sections. And then we're going to take blue, and you can take blue and purple, or you can do blue and green and change up the colors, or you can do a light blue and a dark blue. I'm going to go with a light blue and a dark blue. So I'm going to take my light blue here and I'm going to add it in. Then I'm going to take my dark blue. Well, actually, let's maybe do a little bit of green. I think that might look fine. Okay, I'm going to add more water to this section here. Be very careful going around your Polaroid, not to get it in there. And when you're going around your oil pastels, you can easily just paint right over and the water will fall right off. Adding more water to a different section, taking my paint, blotting it in those sections, taking more paint. More water, more paint, more green. And you don't have to do this with multiple colors, you can just do this with one color as well if you'd like. Alright, so I'm coming up to the very end of my background here. Add in my last bit of blue and my last bit of green. Now if you get a little bit of your paint inside of that white area of your Polaroid, the border, then you can just take a paper towel and you can dab it. And since we're doing wet into wet, that color should be nice and light enough to be able to not even make an effect on your border. Alright, so that is my picture here. Now lastly, we're going to go ahead and go over our story structure and finish up our projects. And we can, if you would like, add in some words or text that fit in with the book and relate back to your project. If you did maybe the characters, you can write their names at the bottom of Polaroids. That's usually what people do at the bottom of Polaroids to help them remember what moment they captured. So if you don't have the characters of the book, you can write maybe your name and your friend's name. Maybe you want to write the rule, which is no toys in the fish tank. Obviously, you want to wait until your picture is dry to do that, but you can go ahead and have fun with certain major points of the book and place that in your picture here. So I'm going to put my watercolors over to the side. I'm going to bring out my story chart here. And as my picture is drying, I'm going to talk to us just a little bit more about the rest of our story and how that finishes up. So we went over this first half of our story, but now we're going to go over the climax, solution, moral, and application. So for the climax, we know that Catherine went to Jason's birthday party, brought him a guitar, and Jason ends up asking Catherine to go to the dance with him. And there's this dance that they're, talking about. So Jason asks Catherine to go with him. And Catherine has a rule where she doesn't dance unless she is alone or in the dark, and maybe together in the dark alone. But she has a rule where she does not like to dance unless she's alone. And so she tells Jason this rule, and Jason ends up getting upset and tells her that it's not a rule, it's an excuse. So Catherine and Jason end up arguing because Catherine becomes defensive and says it's not an excuse, and Jason doesn't believe her. And so they end up arguing, and that kind of creates this major conflict between our two main characters. But then the dance is on the same day as Jason's birthday. So when Catherine leaves Jason's birthday party because of their fight, at the end of the day, Catherine ends up calling Jason and tells his mom that she wants to apologize and to meet her at the dance. So Jason ends up going. They both apologize to each other, and Catherine ends up breaking her rule and dances with Jason. And so she ends up realizing during this time as well, Christy ends up meeting Jason for the first time and realizes why Catherine hasn't wanted Christy to meet Jason. And so Catherine ends up figuring out, and this is where she comes to the large realization that there's no specific type of normal. Okay, and so she just becomes happy to be with Jason, be having fun and in the moment, and not really worried about her rules. So with this realization, her and David end up having a nice heart-to-heart conversation about the rules, and they end up resolving, Catherine's feelings towards David and how he gets stares and how he behaves. So she ends up lightening up with that a little bit. So Catherine ends up at the end, maturing, developing a better relationship with her brother, and breaking one of her rules and finding out that, there's no such thing as an actual normal. Okay, everybody's different. So with that said, we have our climax and our solution. Now for our moral, what I want you guys to think about is that being there for someone with different abilities than you, or someone that might be different than you, and even if they're not different than you, just being there for someone, taking care of someone, being a great friend, being a great daughter or son or sibling, all of those things, being a great person for someone and being there to support them is always very kind and very helpful. And it also helps to make you become a better person as well. It not only affects that person that you're helping, but it affects you as well. So for our application today, we kind of already did it, but we wanted to think about someone that we know, maybe with special needs or disabilities, or just someone who's special to us and we have a great relationship with, and how is that relationship? How do you guys relate to each other? What is something special between you two? And that's why we drew the object. So it may not be specifically you, may be a character from the book, but you really want to think about how relationships are so strong and how they are built and how they can grow, okay? So that was our story today. The book is Rules, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Again, if you'd like, and once your picture is dry, you can go ahead and add in some of the words to help you relate back to the book. So I drew the characters. I'm going to write the name of the character at the bottom of the Polaroid here, and I also wrote her age. Then I'm going to write the name of her brother here and write his age. Again, once your background is dry, you can also write the rule that it is, which is no toys in the fish tank. Maybe you want to write the title of the book, Rules, or maybe you want to write other characters' names. Play around with it and those main points into your artwork. But thank you guys so much for you guys did such a wonderful job on this project. I know it was a lot of hard work, but I'm so happy that we got to finish, and I hope you guys enjoyed this just as much as I did. I hope you also enjoyed the book. It was very insightful and informational, and it also had a lot of great morals and themes to it about relationships, being a great friend, and taking care of someone that may be a little bit different than us. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.